Hey guys, today I have a new watch that I'm going to talk about today, and that is the new Leica ZM 12. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about the new watch that I have today. This is a new Leica ZM 12. This is part of the Leica watch series. Fourth piece of watch that has been introduced by Leica since the introduction of the ZM1 and ZM2. Originally, it was called the L1, L2, but because of some copyright and naming conventions, they decided to change it to ZM1 and ZM2, or ZM1, ZM2 for our American friends. The ZM1, ZM2, or ZM1, ZM2 were originally made in collaboration with Lehmann. Lehmann is actually a milling machine manufacturer based in the south of Germany, and they have been supplying Leica for a very long time and many years, milling machines to make the components for their cameras. And when Andreas Kaufmann, the board chairman, decided that they wanted to redo watches for Leica, they decided to partner with Lehmann, who personally is interested in watches, and he actually makes some watches, but I think less than 100 a year, and most of it are very, very small production series. The partnership resulted in two watches, the ZM1 and ZM2, or the L1, L2. We have a review which I've done when I visited Wetzlar for the start of the for the launch of the ZM1, ZM2 at the time called L1, L2, and I'll link it below so that you can have a look at it. The L1, L2 has began with the infrastructure and the architecture that has been remaining since then. The design was done in-house with the in-house designer for Leica, so that it incorporates the components of the Leica design language, which are apparent in the watches, the simplicity, the straightforward design, the engineering, and very, very beautiful industrial finish of these pieces has been carried over from the cameras to the watches. And also, I believe they worked with one of the former designers of Zone to infuse some of these watch elements into the design. What has Leica got to do with watchmaking, you ask? Interestingly, Ernst Leitz, who is the founder of Leica, started his life and started as an apprentice for watchmaking, and he began his work in watchmaking as an apprentice in Neuchâtel way back then, before he even started the Ernst Leitz company. That means before he even began making cameras. And in 1925, they made the Leica, the Ernst Leitz company actually made, or Leica means Leitz camera, actually made the first 35mm film format camera called the Leica 1. That's 100 years ago. So this year they celebrate their 100th anniversary. And this, the watchmaking restarted after that. Watchmaking and camera making have got many parallels. For example, Jaeger-LeCoultre, which we all know as a watchmaker or watchmakers, actually made a camera called the Compass way back in the 1930s. And it's a beautiful, beautiful camera, very nicely finished, fully mechanical. And famous camera companies like Alpa today, for example, who makes the top-end medium format cameras, they started life as Pinion SA, making components for the watchmaking industry before transitioning into making cameras in the 1950s. So it's some legacy that Leica has in making cameras, as well as, of course, translating that into making watches. This is the fourth watch that they make. The ZM1, ZM2, as I said earlier on, were made with Lehmann. Our watchmaking terminology, T01, 02, 03, or up to 2, maybe 2.5, is actually made by Lehmann in their factory in the south of Germany. And T3 and T4 are actually done in Wetzlar in the Leica Werkstätten facilities, where final assembly and the testing and boxing and shipping out to the customers, and therefore the watch carries a made in Germany sign. When they decided to make the next model in the lineup, and that's the ZM11. The ZM11 is an automatic watch, whereas the 1 and 2 are actually hand-wound watches, using the same design, architecture, and infrastructure defined by the first two watches, the LM1 and LM2, or ZM1, ZM2, sorry, with the ruled dial, very simple, very Bauhaus type design, which is typical of Leica, and with a movement with a raised where the bridges have a raised lip, which is matte finish, and the interior, which has got some texture on it. This same architecture and design language is carried forward to the ZM11. However, the partner chosen for LM11 is actually a full-time real watchmaker, and it's none other than Chronode. We've known Jean-François Mojon for a while, and he's been known to make very high-end pieces for people like MB&F, for brands like HYT, for brands like Hermès, and many, many other high-end watchmaking as well. And this actually is one of the least expensive way into getting a Chronode movement into a watch. The ZM12, which is introduced today, retails for roughly about 10,000 Sing dollars, plus minus, depending on whether you get it with the rubber strap, strap, in this case, the fabric strap. There's also a rubber strap version, or with the bracelet, and whether it is in steel or in titanium. The difference between the ZM11 and 12 is that the ZM12 is slightly smaller. I think it's now 39 millimeters instead of 41 millimeters or 42 millimeters on the ZM12. The same movement, we spoke to Jean-François Mojon, and he told us that the movement is basically essentially the same, except that the ZM12 now has got a subsidiary second hand instead of a center second hand, and the removal of the date ring. So very small modification, but Jean-François told us that the movement is essentially basically the same movement, with a small modification, removal of the date ring, and two additional wheels which are required to move the information for the second hand from the fourth wheel, which is not directly at the 6 o'clock position, to this position where it can be displayed as a subsidiary second hand. This particular watch is quite interesting because, and I've chosen this particular piece because it is in titanium. It's a titanium case with a titanium bracelet, reminiscent a little bit, of course, for example, for me especially, to the original Swiss-made watch, which is made in titanium, which is the IWC Ocean 2000 in collaboration with Porsche Design. The similar kind of feel and vibes. And what is interesting is that, like with all Leica watches, ZM1, ZM2, and ZM11 and 12 now, there's this little button that looks like a shutter release. When you press it, it is actually affects the quick release button, where you can change the strap without any tools. A new strap can be put on by just inserting it like this. See, it goes in. Quite simple, and I think quite an interesting and ingenious system of inserting. And the watch transformed to something completely different in this case here. The basic architecture and the design language remains the same. In this case here, titanium, very well finished, very matte finish. The case and the dial and the hands and the indices are actually still made by Lehmann, who is a specialist in milling and machining. And the movement, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is made by Chronode, Jean-François Mojon. The movement follows the same architecture with the raised lip and with its matte finish edges, and a rough textured interior to the bridges. Special customized roto, of course, is provided, and the watch has got the markings made in Germany throughout, because the final assembly process and the amount of work that has been done in Germany. The watch is quite interesting and it's quite beautiful, and it represents, as I said earlier on, the lowest cost entry into a Chronode movement, which often appears in much, much more expensive watches. So that's it for this particular video review. We have, of course, a more detailed review, which I link below in our website, the written review with more in-depth discussion of the features of this particular watch, and also more detailed, high-resolution photographs that I've made with these watches. And with that, we've come to the close of this particular video review. Thank you for watching. Bye.